All right, here we go. One more month, and Timmy and I are going to help you out. We're going to talk a little bit of the market. We're going to be pertinent information only, like who the Redskins going to draft next year and where are the Capitals going to. No, wait, no, housing. Let's focus.
I
So,
could talk Capitals all year. I mean, hey, you want to talk about the New Jerseys? I'll talk about the New Jerseys. That's fine.
Forget the New Jersey. They should probably throw the throwback ones, the turquoise with the eagle on it. They should go back to the old schools.
Well, hey, we're going down a wormhole here, but they did reveal those, and they're red now.
Oh, the
So
red now.
I'm going to be purchasing one. They release on December 1st, so I'm going to set my alarm for 8 a.m. December 1st, and I'm going to go ahead and
Now, do you get a
order one.
players or do you put your own name on there?
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't want to say Sisson.
Well,
Maybe I'll go Yarmhager or Peter Bondra or
oh,
somebody from that
another
era.
throwback. Peter
Yeah,
Bogdan's a good one. All right,
yeah.
so let's hit the task at hand. So we're hitting up November, and if I'm sure your markets, your feeling your end is similar to my end, where things are definitely like slowing down a little bit, but it definitely twice as much as last year. Like it feels slow, but when I look back at last year's numbers, we're still double what we were doing. I got 10 or so that are in the flux right now. Last year is like two or three, so slowing down, but that's with an asterisk because 2020 has changed pretty much any and all rules in our industry with as far as like what's slow down and so forth. So um
hmm
everybody and
Yeah,
every
busy is a relative term
yeah,
because last year, if you had told me what would happen in the pipeline right now, I would have said, "Wow, I'm very fortunate to be that busy in November," but not as it compares to the last 6 months, really, where you were working 18-hour days sometimes. So yeah, we're fortunate to have this much business, but year over year is where that comparison really is opening. You go, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this much business in November, December. It's fantastic. We're fortunate.
we're gonna be eating our Thanksgiving turkey while negotiating contracts at the same time. Just
By ourselves, no family members around.
remember, just so the record, I'm a 3 beer negotiator, so I'm perfect on that third beer. The
Yeah,
fourth
but the beers you drink are like 8%, 10%.
so slow, but slow is a relative term. So everybody's gonna ask us. So if we're talking slow, not slow, what is next year? What's January and February looking like in general? I know you're not a crystal ball. You just read up on the industry. You're an educated person. You just constantly reading, and you're always involved. So a lot of the stuff that you grab is stuff that you're hearing and seeing with the numbers and stuff. So with that being said, what are we looking like for January and February?
So I did read an article today that had to do with the projections for next year, kind of a, like you said, a crystal ball, but it's from the Mortgage Bankers Association, and they do forecast every year what they think the following year is going to bring, and they calibrate it a couple times throughout the year. And their article today basically said that recalibrating, they think that next year, 2021, is going to break the record for purchase originations um, in America, which the previous high was in 2005. It was $1.51 trillion in purchase originations, and we are expected to see that. And there's a few reasons why. One being that rates are low; they're extremely low right now. We expect them to continue to stay low into 2021. The event that they start to tick up, there's probably going to be pressure to the consumer to say, now time to go buy a house. Your buying power has never been larger. And we say those buzzwords all the time. I know I've said it on these videos a few times. Your buying power is at its peak. But I mean, if you look at it and you go, I could buy something for 350 today, or wait 6 months and I could buy the same house for $300,000 for the same exact payment. It's going to push you out into the market now. So that's a big part of it, is that 2021 may be that last ride of these really low interest rates. We're still not sure. That's probably the biggest driving factor of those stats.
Yeah. And then you have this conversation, you say buying power with people all the time. Like, keep just a close eye on the rates. Don't rush your decision to buy a house that may not work for you just because you're freaked out over a quarter of a point or something like that. You have options for these people, right? You can buy down points, you can do various things to keep those rates low. The inventory is low, so be sure you're still making the right decision for you and the family. Don't just buy whatever you can buy.
Yeah. I was taught a long time ago that you don't just give one option to somebody. Yes, they may be doing a USDA loan or a VA loan, or we've already fit them into a conventional product. That doesn't mean you give them one option with one rate. You always give three.
Yeah.
Three is a good number. Four is too many. Two isn't enough. You give them three options. Okay, yes, you're doing a USDA loan. Here are the three different rates that you can have with a buy down or without one. So, if you have a number in mind, let's try to hit it. Uh, it doesn't mean that this is your rate absolutely, all day long. Let's find where that sweet spot is. But like you said, don't let a 1/4% movement in interest rate dictate what you're going to do, because uh, if it's $25 to $50 a month in a house that you've settled on that you really don't truly love, you're going to regret that in the future. So
Yeah, you gotta make sure we're planning ahead and doing stuff. So we're at where are we at currently? What are some of the rates you've been quoting broadly, and like where we're at?
I mean, we are pretty much squarely in the twos for government products, and conventional 30-year fixed loans are just at kind of that cusp of 3%.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm looking at my pipeline right now. All of the government loan purchase rates are in that kind of mid to high two range. I mean, I have a 2.5 here. I even have a 2 1/8 on a 10-year note. I mean, people are getting close to 2% on their interest rate on a 10-year. It's just phenomenal. So, yes, rates are fantastic. And if it starts with a two, honestly, you should just be happy with that, because there's some of us who were never able to capitalize on that.
Um, I know you do all a variety of, but if you could quickly, I always get people like asking USDA, what are the criteria? So really quick, what are some of the things you're looking for USDA?
So USDA, the two big factors are, where are you buying and how much money does your household make. So in Calvert County, for example, the income limit is 114,650, I believe, 114,350. Anyways, somewhere around the 114 range for a household of four people. So you can't make more than that in order to qualify for that program. So that's step one. Do you make more than that? If you don't, where are you buying? Calvert, good. St. Mary's, most of St. Mary's is good. Southern Anne Arundel, parts of Charles. So that's one and two. And then in terms of the credit criteria, it's very similar to other programs. Okay. Uh, you can do it with a 640 score. We prefer a 60 for interest rate pricing. Couple months of reserves in the bank. It used to be you could do a USDA loan if you had no money at all. That's not necessarily the case anymore, because USDA knows that, hey, it's best for a buyer to have a little bit of money in the bank in case they move in and the AC unit goes or what have you. That's a big issue. And secondly, as you know, sellers aren't giving closing help as much as they were before, or they're not giving of it. So when you have somebody come across my desk and they have $500 to their name, 4 years ago, I would have said, let's go USDA. Now I will say, you know what, it's going to be difficult because of negotiations. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but those are
No.
kind of the criteria there for USDA.
So that's the other part people always ask, because most folks buying a house are worried about the bottom line, right? What am I going to come out of pocket, and what am I paying per month, right? So when you say closing help, in case people aren't familiar out there, I tell people, and correct me if I'm wrong, the generic rule of thumb is your closing costs are going to be about 6% of the sales price. And we used to ask for about 3% from the seller, but not as much anymore. Are all those about pretty accurate?
So there becomes, because the percentage is a percentage of the sales price, there becomes a threshold where 3% closing help would cover all of it. And really that's in this area, that's probably the high threes for a sales price, that 360, 380 range, almost $400,000, where if you ask the seller for 3% closing help, that covers all your closing costs. But if you're in that 150 or $200,000 range, where the percentage does not cover what the total cost is, because some of these are fixed,
Mhm.
then yeah, you have to ask for 4%, 5% closing help to get it all covered. So it really depends on the price range that you're in, how much closing help you would need to cover all of it.
Okay. And that's flexible. You sit down with them, you talk about them, and you give them the breakdowns and everything. We've done a pretty good job of being able to just send you addresses, and you can just bust it out for people and say, this is what it look like if you buy that house. And some of the times people aren't necessarily interested in that specific house, but that price range is where they're at. And you can give them a breakdown and show them like, this is what a house like this would cost, and they can feel comfortable about it, right?
I like to have a mock scenario to run it by a client to say, hey, you say you want to be in the $300,000 range. Okay, here's what those numbers look like. And after you look at them, you say, and you digest it and you say, yes, that all looks good. Then yes, that $300,000 range is confirmed. The other thing I used to do is when I would send a breakdown, I would say, here's your monthly, here are all the closing costs, and here's what you'd come to the table with if you got 3% closing help, because that was the norm. Now I don't put any of it on there at all. I say this is what your bottom line would be if you got no closing help, because that's actually more common. But if you do negotiate some, maybe it's 5 grand, maybe it's a couple $1,000s, maybe it is the full 3%. That's going to deduct from the bottom line. So I work backwards from it, whereas I used to just throw it on there. I don't anymore, because I don't want them to expect it. It puts you in a bad position as their realtor representation, that when they start to negotiate, they've had in their head that they're going to get it. I don't want that to happen.
Nope, that's awesome. So that is a lot of good information, and that's a lot of the questions that I'm getting right now. I'm getting a lot of first-time buyers for two reasons. One, rates are super low. USDA is an awesome product, and because a lot of landlords are selling their houses. It's a fact that these landlords are. This is the peak of the market, and they're just dumping their inventory. So a lot of people that we're renting right now are like, well, let's see what it's like, and they're coming to us for a lot of these questions. So
Yeah, the rental market is, I mean, the cupboard is completely bare right now. So if you reach out because you think you want to rent, we're probably going to put in all the effort that we to see if you can buy, because it's, not only is it a great long-term investment, obviously, we say that all the time, but it's going to be easier for you to find what you want, honestly, because there's no rental inventories. So if we can help you out and get you into a position to purchase, it's going to benefit everybody.
and then from my perspective, we look at those houses differently, right? So if I'm walking through a rental with people, I'm like, yeah, is it big enough? Is it the place you want? Is it the price you want? Whatever. As we're looking through houses, you're like, all right, how's that roof look? What's the septic going to be? HVAC. You're looking at it totally different from my perspective. You don't just walk through like you would a rental and say to yourself, I can put up with this for a year. Not a big deal. It's will this cost me more money down the road? What kind of improvements? Tax refund, like all that stuff is a conversation completely, not even similar. So when people are like, send me rentals and listings, you're like, that's fine. It's just way different situations. So
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy times with this market. We keep saying that we've never seen anything like it, and it changes the way that you negotiate. It changes the way that you have to be aggressive with every property. It is, just being honest, it is still a seller's market. But that's not to be fearful as a buyer. It's just that if you're going to enter into the purchase market, if you see something you like, you got to go after it, and you have to tackle it, and you have to put your best forward. And having a good realtor who knows how to negotiate, and having a lender that's going to be there to run numbers and send you your pre-approval letter and get creative and things like that on the spot is very, very important. Maybe more important now than ever, honestly.
yep. And that's why these conversations you and I have are so helpful. And I appreciate your time with these, because these are the kind of questions we're getting. And if people can see these on social media and other places we put them, and help them feel a little more comfortable about diving in, all people, but this generation of first-time buyers are trying to educate themselves beyond most people that I've seen. They want to have the answers. They want to sit down face to face. They see some things online that may or may not be accurate, and they just want information. So it's pretty
Mhm.
awesome to see.
We don't expect the people that say, just tell me where to sign. That's not what we do for a
Not very
living.
much
We
anymore.
don't we don't want those types of people. If you're that way and you're that trusting, that's fine. But honestly, we expect you to have a lot of, and if you stump us, that benefits us. If we can learn out of the questions that you're asking, so questions are great. I love it.
Yeah, there's a few families though here and there that bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold. They're like, yeah, we've done this. I'm just, I don't know where I'm at. And those are
Yeah.
those are fun too, because you're like, man, that's great. You know what you're doing. You've been through this before. So there's a lot of people taking advantage of that. We have a lot of buy ups, smaller homes into bigger homes right now too. So that's a big thing. And then you got to discuss like what you're gonna do with that old house and listing it, timing it, all that stuff's another conversation, but not a lender conversation. So, but
Next video. There you go.
this is the next video. That's for sure. Because then you got down payment. Oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing, man. That's fun. But these are the questions, the ones I asked you today are the ones I'm seeing. a lot right now. So I'm glad we went over them. We appreciate your time, Mr. Tim, and then we'll let you get back to work because I know you're super busy.
Yeah,
So
thanks for having me again, Billy. Free to reach out to anybody out there. And then, of course, I'm happy to be on these videos anytime and trying to deliver some good information.
talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.